we are at Road America, next on the circuit from Sears Point. Long track with huge straights and high speeds. 177 miles an hour for superbikes, 157 for the super sport, so a big difference there. We're going to talk to people about gearing here this weekend. What are they doing in terms of a compromise for top speed, because you will get in a draft and go faster, versus drive off the corner. With twins and 4 cylinders, there's different gearing ratios there as well. So let's go talk to crew chiefs and see what they're doing in terms of a compromise between top speed and drive off the corner. Well, thanks for the time today, Jeff, here at Road America. Where focus for our tech section this week is gearing. Obviously, compared to Sears Point in the last round, there's a big difference between Sears Point, not only in the number of gears you use, but also the final drive.
Right. Yeah, gearing is an important issue for all the riders. They spend session after session. Some of them are pretty sensitive to it and trying to decide what gearing to use, which gears. Because some of these bikes now, they have so much power, you can have a choice of 3 gears in any given corner. It's not uncommon in some tracks, particularly on 1000cc bikes. But usually in 600s, you could be second or third or fourth, just depending on what RPMs you wanted to use.
Now, obviously, from what we've seen on the data for trap speeds, around mid-150s, you're not going to be anywhere near that at somewhere like Sears Point. So you've got to gear appropriately. How many gearing changes have you gone through since you got here?
Since we got here, it's the same gearing we've run. We had some inside information on gearing to choose, and that's what we put on there, and it's good. Chris has been trying different things with using different gears around the track has been what happens. On these big tracks, you kind of, with a long straightaway, you have to kind of put gearing on there for the straightaway and then work backwards through the corners. A track like Sears Point, you're only going to use maybe 5th gear, or you could use 6th gear, or you could use 4th, and you could use those different gears to have a different situation. Here you have to pretty much use 2nd through 6th just to get by. Although saying that, some guys gear tall enough to where they'll just run 5th gear on the straightaway here. That's not uncommon.
One of the big things too of a big fast track is that you also have to make sure you have enough in the gearing for drafting.
Yeah, so drafting's a pretty big issue here. Chris rode on Friday, got into a pack, and he'd never drafted anybody before, and he got behind 3 guys. He came in, he says, I can't believe the drafting. It's so weird, and it made, here, this track particularly, it'll make as much as a second a lap difference. So in qualifying, it's very important to try and get a draft if you really want to throw down a good time.
The other part of that gearing too, you can gear for the top speed, but if you get in the draft, you even go beyond that, and the last thing you want is to be on the rev limiter when you're trying to execute.
Right. For sure you don't want to be in the rev limiter, and if you're at the rev limiter on all these stock class bikes, you're probably as much as 1,500 RPMs past the power peak, so you stop accelerating forward. So you really don't want to be up there even near the limiter, because it's not going anywhere. It may sound like it, but you're just making noise at that point.
And that's one of the big things at track days that guys don't even factor in. Once your peak power is done, you're done. You're just wasting time and fuel. So gearing your bike to where your power is also a very, very important consideration.
Yes, it certainly is. I mean, ideally, most of these bikes, if you had it geared to where you really shifted maybe only 500 RPMs past the power point, it's perfect. And you have the over rev. All the racers use the over rev, so between corners, so you don't have to shift. Then you can run in the limiter right before you're on the brakes, and you're on the brakes anyway, so you don't worry about accelerating. But making an extra shift always costs you a little bit of time on the stopwatch. So.
Well, we greatly appreciate your time. Thanks very much for sharing some of your knowledge, especially in regards to this huge, fast track.